and welcome to JNN, Jake News Network, on this glorious day in 1895. Today we're going to be doing an investigative report on the upper class of today's society. We're going to take you into the worlds of the working class, the upper snobs, and perhaps a few of those grimy lower class folk. We'll also venture into the inner machinations of the recent play written by that loony Oscar Wilde, The Importance of Being Earnest. From our analysis of the play, we have determined that Wilde is actually mocking the upper class throughout much of his play through their relationships, their obsession with status, and their feelings for those not in the upper class. But first, the weather with Charles Bronson.
And here's your weather for today. You Londoners are going to have rain, as usual. And a low pressure front is coming in to bring down a cloud of aristocracy to crush the lower class. Back to you, Jake.
Thank you, Charles. We'll now be starting our investigative report on the social classes of England today. We'll be starting by having an interview with a butler of the working class. We'll now go to our chief lowlife correspondent, someone who gets paid less than me.
Thank you for taking your time to do this.
Oh, well, I really didn't have anything to do today.
Here. Okay. What is your occupation?
I'm a servant for Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
How are your working conditions?
Oh, I can't complain, really. No, really, I can't. It's not polite.
Right. Moving on. What is your personal life like?
Well, recently, I decided to...
Oh, don't bore me with your personal life.
Sorry, sir.
I guess I'm taking a long shot with this, but how do you think Oscar Wilde uses you to satirize the rich in today's society?
Well, he makes the rich look like a bunch of jerks. Because they just pick on all the poor people like me. I mean, we always get yelled at, even when things aren't even our fault. They just figure out some way to make it our fault. Like, I was supposed to go get some cucumbers for Mr. Moncrief because he was having Lady Bracknell over and he wanted cucumber sandwiches. So I went to the market to find cucumbers, but there were no cucumbers. So what was I supposed to do? He still wanted cucumber sandwiches, and if I didn't get cucumbers, he would have been mad. So he expected me to get cucumbers out of no cucumbers.
Hold on there. I didn't mean to strike a nerve.
Sorry, sir.
Glad to hear it. Well, I believe that's all the time we have for now. Thank you for your time, Mr. What's your last name?
Oh, I can't afford one.
Well, that's a shame. Back to you, Jake.
Oh, we're rolling. Well, thanks, guy who gets paid less than me. That was uplifting. So to continue with our report, we're going to be having interviews with a bunch of random people who we met in England. What's your opinion on name changing and bun burying in the upper class?
Well, I think it's dumb. People should stay who they are. It's not cool to change your name just to get some chicks.
Okay, thank you. What's your name?
Earnest.
As a member of the upper class, how would you utilize name changing?
Well, I use it all the time. I just create an alter ego, then whenever a situation that comes up that bores me or is awkward, I assume the identity and run off to a faraway land.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Earnest.
Excuse me, sir. Do you have time to answer a question?
Certainly.
How do you think Oscar Wilde satirizes the life of the rich through their relationships?
Well, if you look on page 24 of Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest, you will find that aristocratic women like Gwendolyn are very shallow, and they only find the importance in a relationship, the name of their lover. They find the name Earnest very attractive.
Really? Okay. Thank you for your time. Wait, just for the record, what's your name?
Earnest.
Excuse me, sir. Are you a member of the upper class?
Yes, I am.
In Oscar Wilde's play, do you believe he makes fun of the intelligence of the upper class?
In the play, Lady Bracknell mentions smoking as an occupation. She says that she prefers men who smoke. This is obviously a judgment on her intelligence because smoking is bad or something like that.
Do you believe this judgment is accurate?
Hold on. King me. No, I don't think so. So how do you think Oscar Wilde makes fun of the rich in his play?
Well, he shows they're immoral. when Algernon talks in the play about divorce, he says they're made in heaven, and he also shows no real interest in relationships.
Thank you, Mr.
Earnest.
Do you think that Oscar Wilde makes the upper class look judgmental?
Well, actually, on page 22 of The Importance of Being Earnest, Lady Bracknell states that invalids, or people with a disability, should, they deserve absolutely no sympathy at all. And she later goes on to say that Bunbury, Algernon's imaginary friend, should decide whether or not he wants to live or die. And she is completely ignorant. She doesn't understand that sickness isn't something you choose. So, ignorant and pedantic is all she is.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
How do you think Oscar Wilde satirizes the upper class's obsession with pleasure?
Well, wait, what kind of pleasure are you talking about? Like women, moving pictures, what?
I think gluttony.
Gluttony. Well, actually, on page 15, Algernon is obsessed with just eating all these cucumber sandwiches. And that just makes fun of how the upper class is just obsessed with eating food all the time. And it's just sad, really. I mean, they're just obsessed with eating. So that's why it satirizes it.
And what is your name?
Bunbury.
Thank you.
How do you think Oscar Wilde makes fun of the upper class's relationships?
Well, on page 15, Algernon talks about how proposing isn't romantic at all, and how it's more business than actual romance. And if he actually does get married, he will surely forget the fact. So it shows how upper class view marriage and romance in general.
Now that we've gotten our points across, it's time for the extra part of our show.
Hello, and welcome today to the section of the program where news agencies come short on content and have to fill up the last few minutes of the program with utter garble. This is also the part where the actors in the fake news stories have no time to memorize their lines, so they use scripts instead. Jack, Algernon, thank you for coming in today.
It's a pleasure.
Did you say Jack?
Oh, just carry on.
So, Jack, tell me about yourself.
I'm a rather wealthy aristocrat who owns multiple homes, a few thousand acres of land, and I spend most of my days taking care of my young ward, Cecily.
Very nice. Sounds like a comfortable life.
You're adopted.
I'm used to it.
And Algernon, how would you describe yourself?
Oh, I grew up in a lap of luxury, getting whatever I wanted. I would usually pick on the younger children, like that little tramp Lane. Today I live life for pleasure, and I arrange music as a hobby for my aunt, Miss Lady Bracknell. I enjoy talking about myself, so I shall continue to do so. You see, many years ago in the subborough of London... And that's when I found out that the DNA evidence had been tampered with.
Well, okay then. Thank you, Jack and Algernon. So, on to our first legitimate question. Have you ever deceived anyone close to you?
Nope, never.
I think you meant to say Earnest back there, didn't you?
Well, I'm pretty sure it's Jack. It says so right here.
I've known this man for years, and his name is Earnest.
Can we move on?
Well, all right then.
Have I ever told you that you're a very deceptive person?
On page 50, it says I'm the very soul of truth and honor, and disloyalty would be impossible to me as deception.
Well, what about you, Algernon? Have you ever deceived anyone?
Oh, I deceive people all the time. It's great fun, really.
Well, how so?
I have this friend named Bunbury that I use as an excuse to go off and have fun when I'm bored.
I'm surprised you haven't gotten into trouble for your Bunburying.
Oh, half the fun is getting caught.
Well, so on this whole Bunburying business, what do you two think it symbolizes?
That's a tough one.
Perhaps it could symbolize the upper class's deception amongst one another. They simply take on false identities in order to go wherever they want, whenever they want.
Uh-huh. Sure, Ernest. I think that's more of a literalistic interpretation. I think that your take on it is not broad enough. I would take it a step further and say that the upper class in general is devious and deceptive in all that they do. Oscar Wilde shows us that in the play, some of the characters haven't told their close friends their real name for years. This would take a seriously deceptive character to Bunbury for so long. Whoever does this must have serious character flaws in other aspects of their life. And I think that Wilde is saying that all of upper class society possesses this same trait, except for certain people like myself.
Well, okay, Algernon, whatever you say.
Well, in an earlier interview, we asked a random citizen on marriage in the upper class. How do you two feel on this subject?
I find marriage to be equal to starting pixie dust and flying into the sun on the back of a unicorn. It's utterly amazing.
Really, now that's a beautiful description.
Well, I find marriage to be completely unromantic and businesslike. It's like eating a sandwich in the sun, and you don't want to get the sun in your sandwich, and you don't want the sandwich on your sun.
You know, Algernon, I find you to be extremely unromantic and pedantic. I think that you, as a whole, are the representation of the upper class foolishness and foolish ambitions and silliness. Oscar Wilde put you in the play to simply to create contrast with me, the morally obligated one. You see, if the reader were to read this story and simply see me, they would assume that much of the upper class is actually classy. But you show the side of society that is concerned only with only with eating, entertainment, and being entertained. Your kind isn't concerned with the meaningful relationships either. Do I make myself clear?
Your use of the word pedantic is frighteningly shallow and pedantic.
Well, you two using the word pedantic so frivolously is truly no definition of pedantic. Gentlemen, we are getting sidetracked.
Yes, let's get on with it. I have to visit a distant relative who lives a considerable distance away.
Oh yes, me too.
Well, actually, that's about all the time we have for the interview. Thank you for your cooperation and ridiculous metaphors and similes. They were like smashing a watermelon against the dark side of the moon. Now that's what I call a top-notch interview. Hip hip, radio, back to you, Jake.
That's it for the content section of this newscast. For this next bonus section, we asked the public about the 12-minute requirement for this project.
Unessential.
Ridiculous.
Unnecessary.
Unwanted.
Pedantic.
Preposterous.
Redundant.
Idiosyncratic.
Extraneous.
Wumbo.
Wumbo.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. Until next time, stay classy, England.